So I've decided to make this a thing. I think like every other Friday, I'm going to start doing these Fullback Fridays, as I'm going to call them, because, I mean, they're my favorite videos to make. It did extremely well, and, I mean, come on. No one knows about fullbacks. They deserve a spotlight, and that's just what I'm trying to do. So this week, we're going to talk about Christian Okoye. So it always blows my mind that people don't know who he is when I bring him up, because I get that he only played 6 seasons, but like if you don't know who he is, you're missing out. I mean, not many players who've only played 6 seasons have a football life about them on ESPN, and I mean, there's a reason why. He's pretty amazing. So he grew up in Nigeria, and he ran for his track team, and he was a thrower. He was unbelievably good, as you can imagine, to eventually make it in the NFL. So then he was picked up by a California school called Azusa Pacific University. So he moved to the U.S. when he was 21, and he won 7 national titles in shot put, discus, and hammer throw. So, I mean, needless to say, the dude was, a freak of nature. Again, he didn't know what football was, though, until he'd moved to America. And the first time he went to a game, he was quoted as saying it was just boring. So the whole reason he really did this, though, is he was really excited to play in the Olympics. That's why he ran track and everything. That was something he really wanted to do. But despite meeting, like, the ramifications for being eligible, they didn't pick him. And so then he essentially was just like, okay, well, I'm done with that. And so, because he was just angry that he didn't get picked, so he picked up football. Thankful for us, he picked up football. I think it's probably good that he played football, too. To play at an NAIA school like that, and then to be drafted in the second round of the NFL draft, I mean, that's a pretty big deal. In 1987, the Chiefs selected him in the second round after playing in NAIA. He was just so dominant that they were like, yeah, we think we want him. So, again, I tried to find stats for this, but, like, they just didn't exist because, again, it wasn't a major football school, so they just didn't really have anyone counting. They're just like, he's breaking all of our records, and he broke them all. And, you watch him run, and you can tell he doesn't have a football background. Like, I'm telling you after this to look up his highlights. He runs so, like, up and down, and he looks like a sprinter, not an NFL superstar. But don't let that distract you from the fact that when he played 15 games, he was a superstar. I mean, and you see why. I mean, you look at him, he's 6'1", and 250. So he's a linebacker, a rushing linebacker size, who could run a 4.445 speed. And then they try to arm tackle him like that's something you could do. His highlights are just amazing. I mean, he never even played a full season, but in his most famous year, 1989, he only started 14 games, and he rushed for 1,480 yards. I mean, that's basically a 100-yard average, so he would have probably finished the season with about 1,700 rushing yards if he could have played a full season, which would have been awesome. He obviously did it. Injuries were one of his big things because it is really sad how his career had to end. His body couldn't hold up. But man, when he was on the field, I mean, no one was bringing him down. I mean, you can just watch highlights of people just falling off of him trying to tackle him as he's just like nonchalantly running. Now, don't get me wrong, I say nonchalantly. He's stupid fast, but it's just funny because he doesn't look like he's not low to the ground and like, cutting back and forth. He's just pretty straight up and down tall. And that force he ran with on the field, I mean, his nickname was the Nigerian Nightmare, which first off, an amazing nickname. We need more nicknames like that in the modern NFL. And I mean, that's literally, all the defensive players would say that's what they started calling him when they had to describe tackling him. It was just a nightmare. They couldn't do it. You just would most of the time get embarrassed trying to tackle him. As I was saying, the injuries really ended his career, and he technically, though, didn't only retire because of that. He also was quoted as saying that he just was having fun going through the practice and the logistics of football, and that, he joined football just kind of as something to do. It was a job to him. And so he treated it as such. I mean, it was just a job to him. And it's just sad because, again, he only played 6 seasons and he never started 16. And besides that 1 year, I mean, it's just seasons torn apart by injuries, really, and it just stinks because he was, I mean, for only having played football for 3 years in college to come into the NFL and just dominate, I mean, you just don't see that very much anymore. That's such a rare thing. Guys like Antonio Gates are when you think to mind, but not a running back. You don't really think of anyone who, played a different sport really in college and then converted to, a position, got pretty good at it, and then went right into the NFL and was a star. I mean, regardless of all that, though, I mean, he's freaking amazing. Also in Tecmo Bowl, he was one of my favorites because he's like just huge and he just breaks tackles. And obviously, those games are so old that, there's no really breaking tackles. You just run and hope you break them. But he's really good at it. He's one of my favorites in that game. So, I mean, nonetheless, he was awesome. An amazing fullback. Mainly for running. He's not as traditional as most of the other fullbacks I'm probably going to talk about. But again, he was a fullback who could run you over, run around you, run past you. That's just pretty awesome. I mean, he's one of the greats. And I mean, another reason I looked him up was, researching him and doing this video on him just gave me another reason to watch his highlights, which are just, I mean, literally the best. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to leave in the comments who you want me to do for the next Fullback Friday. I have a few ideas, but I'm open to suggestions. Subscribe and like the video, and check out my other ones. They're all pretty great, if I say so myself. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.